So if you're a parent trying to raise a bilingual kid, you know what it's like. You get flooded with advice. Some of it's good, some of it, well, not so good. For decades, the advice, especially for new immigrants, was basically rooted in fear.
And I mean, think about that dilemma for a second. You're forced to choose between your own heritage and what everyone's telling you is best for your kid's future. Well, it turns out the exact situation was the spark for one of the world's leading researchers in this whole field.
Okay, so let's really get into this. Is telling a kid to forget their home language actually the key to success? Or have we been getting the whole story about how kids learn language completely wrong?
You see, for a long, long time, the big idea, the myth really, was that if you taught a kid more than one language, you just confuse them, that it would actually slow them down. And this wasn't some fringe theory, you know? It shaped government policy, it shaped what happened in schools, and it led to countless families making these really agonizing decisions.
But here's where it gets interesting. What happens when a top-tier scholar is also a mom who gets that exact same advice? Well, her personal journey didn't just question the science, it pretty much turned it on its head.
And that, of course, brings us to our pioneer, Professor Mila Schwartz. Her personal mission ended up sparking a total revolution in how we think about the multilingual mind.
So, get this. When Professor Schwartz moved from Russia to Israel, she was told, point blank, stop speaking Russian with your child. Yeah, she didn't listen. Instead, she raised her kids to be trilingual and turned that whole experience into a 25-year academic mission to figure out how bilingualism really works. And today, she's one of the leading voices on the subject in the entire world.
And her work, it didn't just add a little something to the conversation, no. It rebuilt the whole thing from the foundation up. She basically said, hey, let's stop thinking about language as something we just pour into a kid's head and start seeing it as, well, as an ecosystem that actually grows around them.
Okay, so this is the big revolutionary idea, the ecosystem. Forget that old model of just, pouring words into a kid's brain. What Professor Schwartz's work does is it asks us to see language learning for what it is. It's this living, breathing, interactive ecosystem.
So, that old way of thinking, it saw kids as these passive little sponges. You just pour language in and poof, it gets absorbed. Schwartz's model, it totally flips that script. It sees the child as an active agent right in the middle of a collaborative ecosystem. And in this ecosystem, the relationships between people are every bit as important as the words they're learning.
And that word is so important here, agency. What it means is that even a little 4-year-old isn't just sitting there passively taking it all in. No, they're active participants. They are constantly making choices, which language to use, who to use it with, and when. Their own choices are actually shaping how they learn.
So inside this ecosystem, you've got 3 key players, or agents. First, you've got the child, with their own agency. Then you have the teacher, who isn't just some robot following the rules. They're an innovator, adapting to the kids they actually have in their classroom. And third, the parent, who is now a crucial partner with the school. Real success, that happens when all 3 of these agents are working together.
Okay, so that all sounds really cool in theory, right? But what does it actually look like, in the real world, in a messy, loud preschool classroom, or at home during a chaotic dinner time?
All right, let's see this ecosystem in action. Professor Schwartz's research gives us this amazing peek into how it all works in real life, and we're going to start right at the family dinner table.
This is something researchers call Family Language Policy, or FLP. And it's not some stuffy, formal document. It's more like the unwritten rules and the day-to-day negotiations that every single multilingual family goes through. The whole one parent, one language strategy? Or maybe you only speak the heritage language after 5 p.m. Yep, those are all examples of a family language policy.
And one thing Schwartz's research does so well is it acknowledges that this stuff is hard. Parents are often caught in this real bind, this tension between wanting to pass on their heritage and also wanting their kid to fit in with the main language around them. It really shines a light on these tough dilemmas and makes it clear that, look, there is no single perfect strategy that works for everyone.
And this is where the teacher's agency becomes just so incredibly powerful. This quote here comes from a teacher in one of her studies. Now, instead of enforcing some strict English-only type of rule, she made a deliberate choice. She decided to change her classroom to, in her words, leave room for all the languages that her kids spoke. I mean, that is a perfect example of a teacher acting as a true agent of change.
But honestly, maybe the most groundbreaking part of all of this is the focus on the child. This isn't research that just studies kids from a distance. No, it works with them. It uses playtime and conversations to actually understand what they prefer. It treats them like they're the real experts on their own learning. And let me tell you, that is a huge radical shift in this field.
And look, we're not talking about just 1 or 2 studies here. This is a lifetime of work. We're talking over 145 publications that have gone into building this new understanding piece by piece. It's an absolutely undeniable case.
And it's so cool to see how these ideas just build on each other over time. So back in 2013, the work showed that family language policy is a team effort, not just a list of rules. Then, in 2014, the focus shifted to the classroom, showing how teachers need to be these flexible, negotiating partners. By 2023, the lens zoomed right in on the child as the real agent in their own learning. And it's all building toward this 2025 model that ties everything together, with the goal of creating what she calls linguistic security, which is just this amazing idea of a kid feeling totally safe and confident using all of their languages.
So after all that, what does this actually mean for us? Well, it really points the way to a much clearer, more practical, and honestly, a much more human way of supporting our bilingual kids.
Really, the end goal here is to build a bridge between the 2 most important places in a child's world, their home and their school. This idea, home preschool continuity, is all about making sure a kid feels safe and supported using all their languages, no matter where they are. It's about making sure their world feels whole, not fractured.
So the takeaways here are really powerful and pretty clear. For parents, for educators, it means we need to start seeing home languages as a resource, not an obstacle. It means we have to work together as partners in this ecosystem. And maybe most important of all, it means we have to actually listen to our kids and respect their choices. Because at the end of the day, bilingualism isn't built on strict rules. It thrives on relationships.
And that right there, that is the fundamental shift. The whole conversation has shifted. It's not just about which language should we speak anymore. It's about what kinds of relationships are we building. It's the relationships between kids, parents, and teachers that create that amazing environment where every language can really thrive.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. What if the real key to unlocking a child's potential isn't just about what we teach them, but about how we listen to them?